Welcome to another session in this Python series. We are going to be looking at list comprehension. List comprehension is a way of creating a list in a more concise manner, and they are generally more readable and faster than using the traditional loops method. If you remember, majority of the time when we create list, we usually use an empty list before a for loop and we append into that empty list. But we can actually and create a list without having to be appending. For example, let's start with this. In order to create a list using the list comprehension, there are some variation in the expression, but we are going to be looking at them. Just let us take it one at a time. Now, if we want to create directly from an iterable, we just use this particular syntax: expression for item in iterable. Let us look at it like this. If I want to create a list of integers between 0 and 10, or let's say from 0 to 9, how am I going to do it? I will say integer. I can say intil is equals to empty list, and then I will write a for loop for I in range of 10. So, and I will say that int.append I. So if I call int num, I will have this. So this is the traditional way of doing something like this. But I can use a list comprehension. So what I will just do is this. So let's start from creating a list itself. We create an empty list, and inside the empty list, we put the syntax. So let's jump this expression first. So let's say for item in iterable. So for x in our iterable now is a range of 10. So range of 10 is serving as our iterable. Then you come back here and say, what is the expression? The expression is just that for every of this value you are taking from here is the same thing we want here. So if I run that, you can see this now. So I can put this inside a variable name and say int, or let's say numbers. So if I call on numbers again, we have these our values. So now if I want to go further, assuming I want the scale of values from 0 to 9 like this. I will just do this. So, and I have my scales. So assuming I want to divide each element by 2. So I can say divided by 2. And then I have my output. So that is the first level. What if we have an if statement? If you remember when we were doing for loop, or when we were looking at for loops in Python, we did a lot of conditional statement inside the for loop. And we can use the same thing here. So assuming we say, okay, value between 0 and 10, get us the even numbers. So we want the even number. So between 0 and 10. and we want them to be in a list. If we have to do that, we will have to do something like this. If I modulus 2 equals 0, then equals 0, then we say int dot append I. So which means that when you fulfill this condition, append this, and this will not be our even number. So if we run this, you can see this is our like the even numbers. Good. Now we want to do the same thing here. This is the expression. So the same expression, like expression for item in iterable, we just put our if condition in the front. There is no else condition. So it's simple. So let's start for item that is x in range of 10, and then we say if, so what is our condition? If x modulus 2 equals 0, then what is our expression going to be? Our expression is the value, this value from this range that fulfill this expression is going to be our value here. So we put it as x, and then if you call our even number out, you can see that we have our even numbers inside the list. It's as simple as that. What of if we want to multiply all the even numbers by 2? You can say multiply by 2, and then we have this. Good. What of if we say, okay, multiply the even numbers by 2, but the odd numbers, multiply them by 3. We now have two conditions. How do we go about that? Let's look at the expression here. So here, expression if true for the condition, else expression if false for that condition, and then for item in iterable here. So expression if true here. The expression if true is that we want, if this condition is true, what would our expression be? Our expression will be x multiplied by 2. That is, if it is an even number. So we say if x modulus 2 equals 0. So if this condition, that is condition here, is true, what is our expression? Our expression is x times 2. However, if it is false, our expression will be that we multiply x by 3, because if a number is not even, then it is odd. And then for item in iterable, so we can say for x in, so let's still use our iterable as range of 10, or let's say 1 to 10. So with this now, we will get all of our even numbers multiplied by 2 and our odd numbers multiplied by 3. So let's see. So we can see our even numbers are multiplied by 2 and our odd numbers multiplied by 3. So this is how we can use if-else statement inside a comprehension, a list comprehension. So we can also use nested for loop with list comprehension. Now, if I want to extract the values of these calls into a dictionary, into a list rather, this is the code. So if I run this code, I run this, you can see that we have all the scores inside here. But for me to do that, I used nested for loop. So I use a nested for loop to achieve that. We can also do the same thing with a dictionary, with a list comprehension. So with a list comprehension, let's see how we can go about it. So we can say, okay, when we want to do this, the first thing we do is let's check for the first for loop. So let's say scores, score for score in students dot values. So you can see now this one is straightforward. It will bring us each of these lists that contains the score and the subject value pairs. So if I run this, you can see now that each of these is taken out, but we are looking for the values here. So I will take it and then I want to loop inside each of these lists again. I want to loop inside each of these lists. So let's say so now this particular score is what you are looping in. So we make it scores. So then you can say for score in scores. So I changed this to scores because this is giving us each of these lists. If I want to loop out of each of these lists again, I have to do something like this. So score in scores. So which means that this score now is the one that the expression is pointing to here. So for score in scores. So with this now, if we run this, we are going to get this each of these value pairs. You can see now that we now have each of the subject score value pairs inside our list. But if you remember how to unpack inside a for loop, there is a video on that in this playlist. Just check nested for loop. In our nested for loop video, we spoke about how we can unpack inside a for loop, and that is what we are going to be doing here. Since each of these is inside a tuple, which is an iterable, we can unpack it. So we just say for subject and score in scores. So which means that the score here is pointing to this place. And we make subject at the first because subject is the first element of this tuple. So subject score, and then we are going to get our scores. You can see you get our scores. Assuming you want to get our subject, just make this one the subject. And then below it, we get our subject. So I can put this inside the variable and say subject, and then we run it, and then we get it out. So assuming I want it to be scores, I can change the variable name to that, and this will be score. And then you get that. So these are the ways through which we can achieve list comprehension in Python. We are going to be meeting in the next one. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and like our videos.